So, what does it really mean to think like an economist? Come on, forget the complicated graphs and all the jargon for a minute. At its core, it's a powerful and honestly a surprisingly simple mental model for understanding how the world works. So, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to distill the core mindset from Thomas Sowell's incredible book, Basic Economics, and give you that very framework. This quote right here, it really gets to the heart of a massive puzzle. How can a society with millions of people, all of us just doing our own thing, pursuing our own interests, possibly function? I mean, really think about it for a second. How on earth does all the food, the housing, everything we need get created and delivered to the right places without some grand master plan? It seems like it should be total chaos, but somehow it's not. Believe it or not, pretty much the entire field of economics boils down to this one simple sentence. Everything else is just built on top of this foundation. And there are two words in there that are just everything: scarce and alternative uses. Seriously, these are the master keys to unlocking this whole thing. So what does scarce really mean? It's simple, really. It just means that what we humans want will always be more than what's actually available. This isn't a policy problem, it's a fundamental fact of life. It's true for your family budget, and it's true for an entire national economy. Economics isn't about some fantasy of creating a world without scarcity. It's about making the best possible trade-offs within that reality. Okay, so that brings us right back to the big central question. If we can't all have everything we want, how does an entire society, we're talking millions, even billions of people, decide who gets what? How do we figure out how to allocate everything from wood to wheat to workers among the millions of different things they could be used for? Well, there are really only two fundamental ways to do it. On one hand, you can have a central authority, right? Think of a feudal lord or a government planning committee, just issuing orders from the top down. Or you can have a system of price coordination, where literally millions of us are making our own decisions, our own trade-offs, all based on the prices we see every single day. And this right here is the absolute key insight. You gotta stop thinking of prices as just numbers on a tag. They're not. They are signals. Every single price is a little package of information, communicating how much of something there is, how much people want it, and what its value is in all its other possible uses. It's like this massive global communication network that somehow almost magically works perfectly without anyone being in charge. Okay, let's make this real. Let's see it in action. Let's say, out of nowhere, the global demand for paper doubles. So paper companies start scrambling for wood, bidding up the price. Now, here's the cool part. Furniture makers and the folks who make baseball bats suddenly see that the price of wood has gone up. And here's what's crucial. They don't need to know why. The price signal alone tells them everything they need to know. Find a cheaper wood, use less of it, or raise your prices. That one little price change coordinates behavior across totally unrelated industries, all without a single email or meeting. It's an automatic, coordinated dance. All right, so if prices are this incredibly effective communication system, what happens when we try to block the signals? Well, that gets us into the whole complicated world of price controls. And the classic example, the one everyone talks about, is rent control. Now, the goal, the intention, is always a noble one, right? Make housing more affordable for people. Who could argue with that? So the policy intentionally puts a cap, a ceiling on that price signal. But what happens next? Well, let's look at the real-world consequences. So get this. During a severe housing shortage in San Francisco, a study found that almost half, 49%, of all the rent-controlled apartments were occupied by just one person. By blocking the price signal, the law completely removed the incentive for people to use space efficiently. And what's the result? You get small families crammed into tiny spaces, while huge, cheap apartments are taken up by a single person who has no financial reason to ever move. And this is where it gets really devastating. This is the human cost. The source puts it so starkly. The apartments to house people already exist, but they're being used inefficiently because the very laws designed to help ended up blocking the signals that would have allocated them properly. So the gap between those good intentions and the actual consequences, well, it isn't just some academic debate. It has real, tragic effects. Okay, so if prices are the signals that tell everyone what to do, what's the enforcement mechanism? I mean, what makes people actually listen to those signals? Well, that brings us to the crucial and honestly really misunderstood role of losses. Look, we all get profits, right? Profits are easy. A profit is basically society giving you a big thumbs up, saying, yes, what you're doing is valuable. Keep doing that. We want more of it.
But losses are the other side of that coin, and they are just as important. A loss is society's signal saying, whoa, stop. Please stop. The resources you're using are actually more valuable somewhere else. It's time to reallocate.
And this is exactly why losses are absolutely crucial for a healthy economy. Think of them as the market's immune system, an automatic correction mechanism that stops the bleeding of scarce resources. They force businesses to stop doing what consumers don't want and start doing what they do want. In any system where you eliminate that feedback loop, there's no signal to stop the waste. Inefficiency just keeps going and going and going, which just drags down the standard of living for every single person. All right, so this all leads us to the final and I think most important piece of this whole economic mindset. It's a fundamental shift in how you look at the world. You know, this quote here captures the goal perfectly. The ideas we've covered, scarcity, prices as signals, profits and losses, they aren't super complicated. But once you really get them, they give you a brand new lens to see the world with so much more clarity. So here it is, the big takeaway. Thinking like an economist means you stop looking at a policy and judging it by its stated goals, by the good intentions. Instead, you start looking at the incentives it creates. What does it encourage people to do? What does it discourage? And then you trace out that chain of consequences, the good, the bad, the seen, and especially the unseen. And that's really the challenge I want to leave you with. The next time you hear about a new policy or a new law, just ask yourself that simple question. Forget the intentions for a second. What are the consequences? What chain of events is this likely to set in motion? When you start asking that is when you're truly thinking like an economist.